Thebes is a city in Boeotia, central Greece. It played an important role in Greek myth, as the site of the stories of Cadmus, Oedipus, Dionysus and others. Archaeological excavations in and around Thebes have revealed a Mycenaean settlement in clay tablets written in the Linear B script, indicating the importance of the site in the Bronze Age. Thebes was the largest city of the ancient region of Boeotia and was the leader of the Boeotian Confederacy. It was a major rival of ancient Athens, and sided with the Persians during the 480 BC invasion under Xerxes. Theban forces ended the power of Sparta at the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC under the command of Epaminondas. The sacred band of Thebes famously fell at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC against Philip II and Alexander the Great. Prior to its destruction by Alexander in 335 BC, Thebes was a major force in Greek history, and was the most dominant city-state at the time of the Macedonian conquest of Greece. During the Byzantine period, the city was famous for its silks. The modern city contains an archaeological museum, the remains of the Cadmea, and scattered ancient remains. Modern Thebes is the largest town of the regional unit of Boeotia. Geography. Thebes is situated in a plain, between Lake Ulike to the north, and the Cithaeron Mountains, which divide Boeotia from Attica, to the south. Its elevation is 215 meters above mean sea level. It is about 50 kilometers northwest of Athens, and 100 kilometers southeast of Lamia. Motorway 1 and the Athens-Thessaloniki Railway connect Thebes with Athens and northern Greece. The municipality of Thebes covers an area of 830.112 square kilometers, the municipal unit of Thebes 321.015 square kilometers and the community 143.889 square kilometers. Municipality. In 2011, as a consequence of the Kallikratis reform, Thebes was merged with Platis, Thisva, and Vaja to form a larger municipality, which retained the name Thebes. The other three become units of the larger municipality. History. Mythic record. The record of the earliest days of Thebes was preserved among the Greeks in an abundant mass of legends which rival the myths of Troy, in their wide ramification and the influence which they exerted upon the literature of the classical age. 5 main cycles of story may be distinguished: the foundation of the citadel Cadmea by Cadmus, and the growth of the Spartois or Sown men. The building of a seven-gated wall by Amphon, and the cognate stories of Zethus, Antiope and Dias. The tale of Laius, whose misdeeds culminated in the tragedy of Oedipus and the wars of the Seven against Thebes. The Epigone, and the downfall of his house. Laius' pederastic rape of Chrysippus was held by some ancients to have been the first instance of homosexuality among mortals, and may have provided an etiology for the practice of pedagogic pederasty for which Thebes was famous. See Theban pederasty and pederasty in ancient Greece for detailed discussion and background. The immolation of Semele and the advent of Dionysus. The exploits of Heracles. The Greeks attributed the foundation of Thebes to Cadmus, a Phoenician king from Tyre and the brother of Queen Europa. Cadmus was famous for teaching the Phoenician alphabet and building the Acropolis, which was named the Cadmea in his honor and was an intellectual, spiritual, and cultural center. Early history. Archaeological excavations in and around Thebes have revealed cist graves dated to Mycenaean times containing weapons, ivory, and tablets written in Linear B. Its attested name forms and relevant terms on tablets found locally or elsewhere include TQAI, understood to be read as *TGIS, TQADA for *TEGASD, and TQAYA for *TEGAJA. It seems safe to infer that *TEGI was one of the first Greek communities to be drawn together within a fortified city, and that it owed its importance in prehistoric days, as later, to its military strength. Diga-Jalkotsi claimed that the statue base from Koml Hetan in Amenhotep III's kingdom mentions a name similar to Thebes. spelled out quasi-syllabically in hieroglyphs as Dqeis, and considered to be one of 4 TJ and 3 JJ kingdoms worthy of note. *TEGI and LHIIIB lost contact with Egypt but gained it with Miletus and Cyprus in the late LHIIIB. According to Palamas, *TEGI was able to pull resources from Lamos near Mount Helicon, and from Charistos and Amerinthos on the Greek side of the Isle of Euboea. As a fortified community, it attracted attention from the invading Dorians, and the fact of their eventual conquest of Thebes lie behind the stories of the successive legendary attacks on that city. The central position and military security of the city naturally tended to raise it to a commanding position among the Boeotians, and from early days its inhabitants endeavored to establish a complete supremacy over their kinsmen in the outlying towns. This centralizing policy is as much the cardinal fact of Theban history as the counteracting effort of the smaller towns to resist absorption forms the main chapter of the story of Boeotia. No details of the earlier history of Thebes have been preserved, except that it was governed by a landholding aristocracy who safeguarded their integrity by rigid statutes about the ownership of property and its transmission over time. Archaic and classical periods as attested already in Homer's Iliad. Thebes was often called seven-gated Thebes, to distinguish it from hundred-gated Thebes in Egypt. In the late 6th century BC, the Thebans were brought for the first time into hostile contact with the Athenians, who helped the small village of Plataea to maintain its independence against them, and in 506 BC repelled an inroad into Attica. The aversion to Athens best serves to explain the apparently unpatriotic attitude which Thebes displayed during the Persian invasion of Greece. Their contingent of 400 was sent to Thermopylae and remained there with Leonidas before being defeated alongside the Spartans. The governing aristocracy soon after joined King Xerxes I of Persia with great readiness and fought zealously on his behalf at the Battle of Plataea. In 479 BC, the victorious Greeks subsequently punished Thebes by depriving it of the presidency of the Boeotian League, and an attempt by the Spartans to expel it from the Delphic Amphictyony was only frustrated by the intercession of Athens. In 457 BC, Sparta, needing a counterpoise against Athens in central Greece, reversed her policy and reinstated Thebes as the dominant power in Boeotia. The great citadel of Cadmea served this purpose well by holding out as a base of resistance when the Athenians overran and occupied the rest of the country. In the Peloponnesian War, the Thebans, embittered by the support which Athens gave to the smaller Boeotian towns, and especially to Plataea, which they vainly attempted to reduce in 431 BC, were firm allies of Sparta, which in turn helped them to besiege Plataea and allowed them to destroy the town after its capture in 427 BC. In 424 BC, at the head of the Boeotian levy, they inflicted a severe defeat upon an invading force of Athenians at the Battle of Delium, and for the first time displayed the effects of that firm military organization which eventually raised them to predominant power in Greece. After the downfall of Athens at the end of the Peloponnesian War, the Thebans, having learned that Sparta intended to protect the states which they desired to annex, broke off the alliance. In 404 BC they had urged the complete destruction of Athens. Yet in 403 BC they secretly supported the restoration of its democracy in order to find in it a counterpoise against Sparta. A few years later, influenced perhaps in part by Persian gold, they formed the nucleus of the League against Sparta. At the Battle of Halytus and the Battle of Corone they again proved their rising military capacity by standing their ground against the Spartans. The result of the war was especially disastrous to Thebes. as the general settlement of 387 BC stipulated the complete autonomy of all Greek towns and so withdrew the other Boeotians from its political control. Its power was further curtailed in 382 BC, when a Spartan force occupied the citadel by a treacherous Kudamene. 3 years later, the Spartan garrison was expelled and a democratic constitution was set up in place of the traditional oligarchy. In the consequent wars with Sparta, the Theban army, trained and led by Epaminondas and Pelopidas, proved itself formidable. Years of desultory fighting, in which Thebes established its control over all Boeotia, culminated in 371 BC in a remarkable victory over the Spartans at Leuctra. The winners were hailed throughout Greece as champions of the oppressed. They carried their arms into Peloponnesus and at the head of a large coalition, permanently crippled the power of Sparta, in part by freeing many Helot slaves, the basis of the Spartan economy. Similar expeditions were sent to Thessaly and Macedon to regulate the affairs of those regions. Decline and destruction, however. The predominance of Thebes was short-lived as the states which she protected refused to subject themselves permanently to her control. Their renewed rivalry with Athens, who had joined with Thebes in 395 BC in fear of Sparta, but since 387 BC had endeavored to maintain the balance of power against her ally, prevented the formation of a Theban empire. With the death of Epaminondas at the Battle of Muntini, the city sank again to the position of a secondary power. In a war with the neighboring state of Phasis, it could not even maintain its predominance in central Greece, and by inviting Philip II of Macedon to crush the Phocians, it extended that monarch's power within dangerous proximity to its frontiers. A revulsion of feeling was completed in 338 BC by the orator Demosthenes, who persuaded Thebes to join Athens in a final attempt to bar Philip's advance upon Attica. The Theban contingent lost the decisive Battle of Chaeronea and along with it every hope of reassuming control over Greece. Philip was content to deprive Thebes of her dominion over Boeotia, but an unsuccessful revolt in 335 BC against his son Alexander the Great while he was campaigning in the north was punished by Alexander and his Greek allies with the destruction of the city. Except, according to tradition, the house of the poet Pindar and the temples, its territory divided between the other Boeotian cities. Moreover, the Thebans themselves were sold into slavery. Alexander spared only priests, leaders of the pro-Macedonian party and descendants of Pindar. The end of Thebes cowed Athens into submission. According to Plutarch, a special Athenian embassy, led by Phocion, an opponent of the anti-Macedonian faction, was able to persuade Alexander to give up his demand for the exile of leaders of the anti-Macedonian party, most particularly Demosthenes. Hellenistic and Roman periods ancient works tend to treat the destruction of Thebes as an excess and one of the few misdeeds by Alexander. Although Thebes had traditionally been antagonistic to whichever state led the Greek world, siding with Persians when they invaded against the Athenian-Spartan alliance, siding with Sparta when Athens seemed omnipotent, and famously derailing the Spartan invasion of Persia by Agesilaus. Alexander's father Philip had been raised in Thebes, albeit as a hostage, and had learnt much of the art of war from Pelopidas. Philip had honored this fact, always seeking alliance with the Boeotians, even in the lead-up to Chaeronea. Thebes was also perceived as the most ancient of Greek cities with a history of over 1,000 years. Plutarch relates that during his later conquests, whenever Alexander came across a former Theban, he would attempt to redress his destruction of Thebes with favors to that individual. After Alexander the Great died, Thebes was re-established in 315 or 316 BC by Cassander, perhaps in his desire for fame. However, Thebes never returned to its former prominence or power. It was besieged and taken by Demetrius Poliorcetes in 293 BC, and again after a revolt in 292 BC. This last siege was difficult and Demetrius was wounded, but finally he managed to break down the walls and to take the city once more, treating it mildly despite its fierce resistance. The city recovered its autonomy from Demetrius in 287 BC, and became ally with Lysimachus and the Aetolian League. Byzantine period. During the early Byzantine period it served as a place of refuge against foreign invaders. From the 10th century, Thebes became a center of the new silk trade, its silk workshops boosted by imports of soaps and dyes from Athens. The growth of this trade in Thebes continued to such an extent that by the middle of the 12th century, the city had become the biggest producer of silks in the entire Byzantine Empire, surpassing even the Byzantine capital, Constantinople. The women of Thebes were famed for their skills at weaving. Theban silk was prized above all others during this period, both for its quality and its excellent reputation. Though severely plundered by the Normans in 1146, Thebes quickly recovered its prosperity and continued to grow rapidly until its conquest by the Latins of the Fourth Crusade in 1204. Latin period. Thanks to its wealth, the city was selected by the Frankish dynasty de la Roche as its capital, before it was permanently moved to Athens. After 1240, the St. Omer family controlled the city jointly with the de la Roche dukes. The castle built by Nicholas II of St. Omer on the Cadmea was one of the most beautiful of Frankish Greece. After its conquest in 1311 the city was used as a capital by the short-lived state of the Catalan Company. In 1379, the Navarrese Company took the city with the aid of the Latin Archbishop of Thebes, Simon Artumino. Latin hegemony in Thebes lasted to 1458, when the Ottomans captured it. The Ottomans renamed Thebes Istefa, and managed it until the War of Independence except for a Venetian occupation between 1687 and 1699. Present day. Today, Thebes is a bustling market town, known for its many products and wares. Until the 1980s, it had a flourishing agrarian production with some industrial complexes. However, during the late 1980s and 1990s the bulk of industry moved further south closer to Athens. Tourism in the area is based mainly in Thebes and the surrounding villages, where a lot of places of interest related to antiquity exist, such as the battlefield where the Battle of Plataea took place. The proximity to other, more famous travel destinations, like Athens and Chalkish, and the undeveloped archaeological sites have kept the tourist numbers low. Notable people: ancient Epaminondas, general and statesman, commanded the Theban forces at the battles of Leuctra and Mantinea. Pelopidas, general and statesman, led rebellion against Sparta, commanded the Theban sacred band at Leuctra. Aristides, painter. Nicomachus, painter. Crates, a Thebes cynic philosopher. Clytomachos, athlete. Pindar, poet. Modern Haris, a lecturer, singer. Panagiotis Bratsiatis, theologian. Theodorus Vrizakis, painter. Bibliography. Herodotus, Histories. Angold, Michael. The Byzantine Empire, 1025 to 1204.